Bag charms, trinkets, keychains, blind boxes, small toys, plushies are at an all-time high among not only children and teenagers, but also, if not mostly, young and grown adults. So the question is, why? Are they childish? Do they infantilize women? Are they tacky? Are they anti-women? Is all of it just overconsumption? Are you one of the adults who buy these tiny little things? Better yet, am I one of them? Hey Briddies, my name is Odjuani and welcome back to the Spoil channel. Today we're gonna talk about bag charms, trinkets, tiny little things that add a little whimsy to people's lives.
I love a trinket. I love a small thing. I love a craft. I love an art and craft. I like a DIY. I like a fridge magnet. I like potpourri. I like glass candy. I like wooden apples.
Why do these tiny little things that have no purpose have such a massive appeal, especially with grown adults? And that's the question I'm going to try to answer with this video. And we're also going to try to answer if these charms and keychains are anti-women, or they're childish, they infantilize people, or if all of this is overconsumption. Oh God. Okay, what was that? What was that? I'm scared.
How many people were scared? Me too. I was really scared.
This Happy Meal toy fell off the shelf. Oh my God, it could have hit me. I guess they wanted to be included in this, so. Anyway, as well as how this all relates to the current moment that we're living in as a society. So basically, we're gonna explore the history and the psychology behind trinkets, bag charms, and knickknacks to answer our questions for this video. I think it's safe to say that labubus are a dead trend now. I haven't heard of them for quite a while, but in general, I don't see bag charms, blind boxes, calico creators, jelly cans going anywhere. Like Coast released book charms in a partnership with Penguin Classics this year. Beauty bag charms are also trending as well. And as we look throughout history, we're gonna see that these tacky little things have always existed. They're just having a big moment now in this decade for some reason.
Protect and watch over me, as a shepherd watches over his flock.
The act of attaching or charming a bag, a piece of clothing, or jewelry like a charm bracelet with a small object has been around for centuries. However, these charms began as amulets or talismans for protection, healing, and good luck, rather than self-expression. In ancient Egypt, amulets were quite popular. Egyptians believed that they were an essential part of one's life and death, as they were beneficial for both the living and the dead. These amulets would take the shape of gods, goddesses, symbols, body parts, or objects in miniature. They were usually worn as necklaces, mounted on rings, strung on bracelets, or placed on the mummy wrappings to secure the deceased's rebirth and well-being in the afterlife. Certain things found in nature, such as a claw or a shell, were also thought to be imbued with magical powers, and they could function as an amulet as well. There were also textual amulets, which were basically short magic spells written on a piece of linen or papyrus that was then folded and put on a string. And in theory, any small object could have been turned into an amulet back then through a magic ritual. Some of the most popular amulets in ancient Egypt were the Ankh, a scarab, and the Eye of Horus. The Ankh was a symbol that represented the imperishable vital force and was the hieroglyph for life. It was among the most common amulets because of the Egyptians' desire for eternal life after death. Scarab beetles were symbols of life and regeneration. They were often mounted on rings, bracelets, and necklaces. They were worn by the living to protect them from death, and worn by the dead to ensure their afterlife. During the process of embalming, the scarab was placed on the chest of the mummy or inside the cavity of their heart. The Eye of Horus, also known as Uja or Ouija Eye, I apologize if I'm mispronouncing any of these names, or any of the future names that I'm gonna say in this video. So I'm sorry, and I'm definitely gonna try my best to pronounce them correctly. Also known as Ujat or Wejat eye, is actually a combination of a human and a falcon eye, as Horus was a god associated with the falcon. It was an amulet used for protection, health, and restoration. And these amulets were not just popular in Egypt, they had a widespread popularity across other countries such as Turkey, Syria, Iran, and most Mediterranean countries. And speaking of countries in the Mediterranean region, one of the most popular amulets around the world that is thought to have originated from that area, around 5,000 years-ish ago, is the Evil Eye. Also known as Nazar Boncu in Turkish, or Mataki or Mati in Greek. The Evil Eye is a cross-cultural traditional amulet found both in Turkey and Greece. In Turkey, it can be found in decorations across the country and especially in souvenir shops, be on a bracelet, necklace, keychain, or in some variation of it. The point of the Evil Eye, which is not, the actual amulet, the amulet is not the Evil Eye. The Evil Eye is more like the evil that the amulet is trying to protect someone from. So the person who carries it is being protected from danger or envy, and at one point the amulet breaks and it means that its job is done and it's time to replace with another one. In ancient Greece, Greeks used crystals as amulets with mystical properties, and some of the names that we use for some crystals are from Greek words. The word crystal itself comes from the Greek word for ice, as ancient Greeks believed that a clear quartz was frozen water. And amethysts were worn as amulets to prevent both drunkenness and hangovers. Ancient Greek jewelry would often be decorated with crystals, as they were thought to have healing and protection properties. During the Middle Ages, religious amulets would gain more prominence, especially in Christian and Islamic cultures. In the Islamic world, many Muslims would carry Quranic inscriptions, images of prophets, astrological signs, and religious narratives as talismans in their pockets or in their amulet case. And sometimes some of these talismans were worn as jewelry or actual clothing, like a talismanic shirt that was meant to be worn during battles. And these talismans were meant to protect them from any harm or the forces of evil. Just like in Europe, where Christian pilgrims and travelers would carry relics, crosses, and religious texts, believing that they would offer divine protection. Medieval knights would also carry charms inscribed with prayers or symbols of their faith during battles. Something that was also popular during the Middle Ages, especially among women, were amulet rolls. Amulet rolls were written textual amulets in a roll format that contained religious texts, scriptural quotations or readings, a repetition of divine names, devotional images, Christian symbols, particularly the sign of the cross, as well as instructions for the reader to follow. Additionally, a lot of these amulet rolls would have magic incantations. That's right, the whimsy girlies locked in. The magical amulet rolls had magic symbols like the pentagram, cryptic words, foreign names, repeated letters, and magic words like abraxa or abracadabra. However, amulet rolls were forbidden by the church, both the religious and magical ones. There were a few exceptions, like some religious amulet rolls that were thought to help women during childbirth, but the magical ones were extremely forbidden and thought to be demonic, just like anything superstitious back then. During the Renaissance, alchemists and scholars promoted mystical charms, often infused with astrological meanings to attract wealth, health, or love. The 16th century Queen of France, Catherine de Medeci, who was thought to be a witch, but was probably just superstitious, was known to have a few talismans, amulets, and charms that possessed mystical powers. One of them was an astral talisman that she would always have with her, and it was meant to attract power and love. And she needed a talisman real bad because her husband, King Henry, was in love with his mistress and not with her. But it kind of worked because she ended up being the Queen of France for quite a few years. So yeah, I guess it did work. In the 17th century, an amulet called Omamori would become popular in Japan, which was meant to protect people from evil spirits. It originated from the fusion of the Buddhist amulet tradition and the Shinto charms. The earliest forms of these amulets were paper talismans, wooden plaques, or small stones inscribed with the names of the deities and blessings. Over time, these evolved into the cloth pouch style commonly seen today, which is more practical for carrying and giving as gifts. And Omamori charms charm can have a wide variety of types, each tied to a specific kind of wish or protection, such as anti-evil Omamori, relationship Omamori, health Omamori, etc. Today, Omamori can be found in Shinto shrines, Buddhist temples, and gift shops in Japan. And keep this name in mind, because it's gonna show up later.
My bracelet! You guys, I lost my bracelet! Oh. Never mind.
Amulets and charms would still be popular superstitious items for protection, good luck, or good fortune in many cultures throughout history. But it was during the Victorian era that small objects used as house decor or fashion accessories would begin to have sentimental value. Small items like lockets, picture frames, and charm bracelets were growing popularity during that era. In fact, it was Queen Victoria who popularized the use of charm bracelets among noble women in Europe and consequently the entire world. And charm bracelets were kind of similar to chatelaines, meaning mistress of the castle / chateau in French. And it was a device attached to the waist of a woman's dress that carried tiny little useful objects, from notebooks to scissors and knives. Other cultures had their own version of it, like the Japanese inro. The medieval version of the chatelaines were the keys to the castle, where women would carry them, creating a status symbol of the lady of the castle / chateau. In general, chatelaines were really practical, especially for nurses at the time, but a lot of them would also become more of a fashion accessory rather than a practical item for the day-to-day life. Some of them would even have their own theme, such as mourning. And speaking of mourning, Queen Victoria had charm bracelets dedicated to her family and especially her late husband, because she loved her man and she missed him. Some of her charm bracelets were for mourning and other ones were simply to display her love and affection for her family. She was very sentimental with her clothes and her accessories. The lockets on her bracelets would often be heart-shaped and they would have a lock of hair or a photograph of a family member inside them. And she'd also get charms as gifts to attach to her bracelets. People could obviously relate to Queen Victoria's sentimentality, so they would get their own charm bracelets. With the worldwide popularity of charm bracelets, Tiffany & Co. would mass-produce its own version of it. The classic silver chain with a heart-shaped pendant, which elevated the status of charm bracelets into a luxury item, becoming a signature bracelet for the brand, being sold to this day. The charms would represent tokens of affection that people would give each other as gifts or buy during vacations in other countries to capture good memory. Then get a sense of nostalgia when looking back at these items and feeling good about them. And as a result, these items would get a sentimental value.
My friend Hermione has this little shop.
Brick and brack and nick and that things. Any old junk taken, why don't you trade yourself in? Get out, go on.
Along with the popularity of sentimental small objects, there was also the boom of small items that had no value. People were just curious about them. Victorians had a peculiar obsession with small items, especially the unusual and odd ones. That's why both literature and films are always using Victorian antiques to evoke creepiness. They had a scary appeal. Bric-a-bracs and bibelots were also gaining more prominence during the Victorian era as well, even though they had been around for quite a while. And bric-a-brac is the French equivalent for the word knick-knack, and bibelot is the French equivalent for ornament or trinket. As the Victorians began to collect these small and curious objects, they would store them in trinket boxes or something called, excuse my German, Wunderkammer or Kostmankammer, or simply a cabinet of curiosities, which was a practice that had begun back in the 13th century. Collectors would also add small items from different countries, like souvenirs, into these cabinets. The famous and influential book about house decor, The House of Decorations by Edith Wharton and Odjuani Codman Jr., published in 1898, had an entire chapter dedicated to bric-a-bracs and how it was important to differentiate them from objects d'art, which were small artistic objects meant to decorate your house, like small vases, miniature sculptures, and those fancy Fabergé eggs. And this book was against knickknacks decorating your house. In it, they say, before proceeding further, it is necessary to know what constitutes an object of art. It was said at the outset, though cheapness and trashiness are not always synonymous, they are apt to be so in the case of the modern knickknack. The shade. To buy or to even make, it may cost a great deal of money, but artistically it is cheap, if not worthless. And too often, its artistic value is in inverse ratio to its price. Oof. They do appreciate old knickknacks in the same chapter because of their better quality. They say, old bric-a-brac and furniture are indeed almost worthy of liking, since they're made on good lines by a good process. So from then on, a certain standard was created. Old antiques may be tacky, but they can be chic. New and mass-produced small objects that you can decorate your house, such as like knickknacks and whatever, tacky. Period. Despite that, knickknack, ornaments, souvenirs, and trinkets would become more and more prevalent in our everyday lives. My mom has this collection of magnets that she puts on the fridge, and they're all from places that she's been in. Well, some of them, but most of them are. And it's like the tackiest thing ever, but at the same time, the most earnest and cutest thing that I've ever seen. Despite our fridge being, you know, a white refrigerator, I know, not a white refrigerator, honey, please.
I was shocked, honey. I was in tears almost. And it has a white refrigerator. I was like, oh, not a white refrigerator. Girl, please put your shoes on. Let's go find you a home, honey. Ooh.
Anyway, it's the cutest thing ever. It brings me so much joy to see her, you know, building up her collection of magnets, and I can't wait to see the entire fridge being decorated with magnets and the many places that she will visit for sure. And I love what Sydney Lin from the Science Service said in an article called "What is All This Stuff? The Beauty of Knickknacks?" where she says, "In collecting these items, we turn our homes into a museum, a sort of walk-through art gallery of our lives. We should feel lucky to have the privilege of calling these items our own. Important is an understatement when talking about the value of cherishing the physical embodiments of the places we've been, people we've loved, the values we hold, and the memories we hold even closer."
No hell, no. Hey, beware. I don't care how big your eyes get, play, it's not going down. All right. Stop!
Not only do these small items bring us good memories, they're also just cute. Yeah, it turns out that people just love cute little things. They are pretty and cute, like figurines, snow globes, magnets, or music boxes. And in a very specific part of the world, cuteness would become a culture itself, and eventually a multi-million-dollar industry, which is the kawaii culture and aesthetic. Kawaii is often translated as cute, and is derived from the ancient word kawahayushi, which means face, cow, flushing, hayushi. Referring to someone's blushing face, it was used to describe the feeling of ashamed, can't bear to be seen, feeling pity, and then it evolved into can't leave alone or care for. This is the feeling that you definitely have towards something you see as cute. You feel the need to care for something cute and fragile and small. Although scholars have found the roots of kawaii in early Japanese arts and aesthetic, the modern version of kawaii as we know today originated as an offshoot of Japanese girls' culture, started off by a style of handwriting in the 70s called maruiji, which translates to round writing, which not only was written horizontally, breaking the traditional vertical norm, but also incorporated hearts, stars, and childlike cartoon faces into the writing. This new style of handwriting was banned from schools, and was a way for teenage girls to rebel against the rigid post-war society in Japan. Then magazines and comics started using the maruiji writing style in their packaging and advertisements, and as a result, it quickly gained popularity across the country. It was around that time that the most famous and possibly the embodiment of kawaii culture was born. Hello Kitty. Created by Yuko Shimizu, the Sanrio character would take over the world. The founder of Sanrio, Shintaro Tsuji, saw that the sales bumped whenever a cute design was added to ordinary products. And psychologically, studies connect this aspect of human behavior with the baby schema effect, which according to the ethologist Konrad Lorenz is a set of infantile physical features such as the large head, high and protruding forehead, large eyes, chubby cheeks, small nose and mouth, and short and thick extremities, and plump body shape that is perceived as cute or cuddly and elicits caretaking behavior from other individuals. And that is something you notice in children's media. Characters with big heads, big eyes, small bodies, small noses, and tiny lips like Hello Kitty. Well, except for the big eyes and the lips. She has small eyes and no lips. Research has also proven that cute small things make us feel good, make humans feel good. That's why puppy therapy exists. And that's what the children's media and the kawaii industry capitalize on. I mean, there are tons of Hello Kitty Omamori. Remember them? We talked about them a few minutes ago. Well, they would become popular and evolve into the modern day keychains and bag chimes that can be often seen in the Japanese and kawaii culture and aesthetic. Bag chimes and phone chimes were often seen in the Japanese streetwear fashion in the 90s, especially through magazines such as Fruits, with teenagers and young adults expressing themselves with tiny cutesy objects. The gazapon culture, the capsule toy vending machine that originated in the 60s, was also a phenomenon in the 90s and is still popular to this day, and it has ties with the blind boxes that originated from the fukubukuro custom of selling boxes with random unknown things with huge discount prices. And all of these incorporated the novelty or collectible aspect of today's modern knickknacks. Just like cereal boxes with surprise toys, Kinder Surprise eggs, Happy Meal toys. It's dark now, so I should wrap it up.
You stay away from me! I have pepper spray on my keychain!
So as we have seen, the appeal of small objects is due to a number of different factors, such as spirituality, protection, superstition, sentimentality, nostalgia, curiosity, cuteness, self-expression, or just novelty. Nowadays, teenagers and mostly grown adults are collecting these objects more and more, using them as phone or bag chimes, decorating their space, storing them in trinket boxes, or exchanging them with each other. And this is all due to the current state that we're living in right now. We find comfort in these little objects because of the uncertainty of the world that we're living in. People are stressed, there's the high cost of money, there's the terrible job market, there's environmental anxiety, and that's why we're seeing a boom of collecting toys, bag charms, and trinkets. And this gives you some sort of control over something, unlike the world that doesn't give you any sense of control of anything. And as we saw through history, it's in times of distress and anxiety that people gravitate towards, small items for either protection, health, luck, some sort of comfort, or just making you feel happy when you need to. Like Jane Birkin, who famously had bag chimes on her bag, did it because she wanted to express herself. She wanted to expose the things she liked and the things that made her feel good. Just like the girls in Japan, it's natural, it's human nature. It's universal. The downside is that big companies will encourage overconsumption to buy these items. And the mass production of them and poor quality only makes them feel like a trendy thing that will later on be found in a thrift store or in a landfill somewhere. And yes, I am talking to you, Labubus. Like, they were a big thing last year, and now, not a single one in sight. And that's the problem when you use a practice that it's meant to be, a hobby meant to make you feel good, turn into this massive corporation scheme that wants you to hop onto the trend and consume it as fast as you can and then forget about it later. And that is not something exclusive to Labubus. Like, there's a bunch of trends that we have seen in the past that, came and went. Like, does anyone remember the Stanley Cup craze? And there's also people who think that adding bag charms to your bag or adding any sort of cutesy thing to your daily life is tacky. And sure, that's your opinion, it's subjective, but I think it's important to not just brush it off as something childish or infantilizing or anti-women, like some people have done it on social media recently.
Bag charms are tacky and also anti-woman, so let me mansplain it for you.
which is something that happens a lot with something that majorly caters to women. People always seem to have a problem, like the whimsy girlies in the medieval times with the amulet charms. The church boycotted. The girls in Japan with the cutesy writing. The schools boycotted. And now people also have a problem with, adding back charms. So no, it's not anti-women, it's not childish, it's not infantilizing people. It's a hobby, it's someone's style, it's someone's culture and identity. It also encourages people to be creative by creating their own back charms and little trinkets and whatnot. It also fosters community with people exchanging trinkets. And anything can be a trinket. This might be a little, keychain, plushy toy, but one day it might be a trinket, depending on the time, the history I have with it, or the sentimental value that it has. But for now, it's something that displays what I like to the world and helps me find people who are like me and like the same things that I like. And I love that. And I definitely encourage people to do the same. And it also adds a little joy to my life, especially in a world that isn't really joyful. And you know what else brings me joy? Your ratties, your love and support is something that I'll always be grateful for and that I'll never, ever, ever forget. Ever. So that's all I have for today, ratties. I hope you all enjoyed this video as much as I did making it. Let me know in the comments if you collect any trinkets, if you have any bag charms. I'm excited to read your comments. You know how I love to read your comments and engage with all of you. As always, thank you so much for watching this video. I'll see you next time. Take care and bye-bye. Hey, bratties. So this is my box of joy. That's what I like to call. It's a box where I put things that make me happy, and whenever I'm sad, I go and I open it up and see what's inside to make me happy. I basically made this. I painted it and then I put some stickers all over it, like on the side, on the back, and on top of it. Let's check it out what's inside. I also have stickers inside as well. I painted the inside as well. There's some Britney CDs. There's a Powerpuff Girls keychain, vintage Powerpuff Girls band-aid, Powerpuff Girls stickers, and other random stickers. Powerpuff Girls diary. Oh my god, it's hard to. Nothing written on it, and I don't think I'll ever write on it. 2 Powerpuff Girls pencils, mini pencils, and there's some weird looking My Little Pony characters. I don't even know what's going on with her cheeks here. I guess she is fine. I don't know. Look at her weird eyes. Hers are way too far apart. But she looks fine when you look at her like this. When she's like this, yeah. Nightmare fuel.